Wednesday 29th of June, and it is time for number 158. So we're getting there. Only another 30 and then I can get to halfway. So yesterday, or I've just uploaded, so yesterday's bourbon was the W.L. Weller, which was the wheated bourbon from Buffalo Trace. And it would have been kind of handy if I'd have had this particular one, which I've left over there. There we go. This particular one, that one, the old Fitzgerald, immediately afterwards. I should have done the two as a pair, but I've only found out that this is very, very similar, having done the research for it today. So I'm literally just kind of like grabbing them as I go, so I'm not being able to sort of research in advance far enough to be able to go, oh, actually I need to do that one with that one and that one with that one. So kind of semi-lucky that I actually picked this one up for tonight and then did the research and thought, oh, actually I need to do this straight after the Weller, because it's very, very similar. Old Fitzgerald, this is what the bottle looks like, is a brand that was named after John E. Fitzgerald, who around 1870 launched the brand as a whiskey that he was selling to rail and steam lines and private clubs, sort of mainly around Kentucky. And around 1900 it was then launched into the general public because it was proving very popular. It was one of the very few brands in America that was utilised by the government during Prohibition to make alcohol for medicinal purposes, which basically kept the business running. And then just after Prohibition, Pappy Van Winkle himself actually bought the brand of Old Fitzgerald for $10,000 apparently. So it was being made at the Stitzel Weller distillery, which is also where W.L. Weller was being made as well. So in 1992, the Stitzel Weller distillery was bought by Diageo, and as part of the sale, various parts and brands kind of went into separate places because the Van Winkle family kind of kept their Van Winkle bit but sold off the other brands. So W.L. Weller as a brand went to Buffalo Trace, and Old Fitzgerald actually stayed with Diageo until it was bought by Heaven Hill in 1999, because Diageo had their own distillery called the Bernheim Distillery. Heaven Hill bought that as well as the Diageo brands in 1999. So Old Fitzgerald is a wheated bourbon, very similar to the W.L. Weller, but it's from Heaven Hill rather than Buffalo Trace. So there you go. So this, along with the next one that I'm going to do, is again from James Hope, and was amongst the sort of various. Now he is now quite lucky to have this because it looks as though Heaven Hill have actually discontinued the Old Fitzgerald line. There's a couple of releases from it. This is the 12-year-old, which is 45%, and it's actually named the very special Old Fitzgerald 12-year-old. Now, as I say, Heaven Hill seem to have actually discontinued the Old Fitzgerald line for a newer, sort of more, not budget, but they seem to be slightly cheaper, sort of lower end, wheated bourbon still, but it's called Larceny, which I unfortunately don't have a sample of. So I suppose it would have been quite good to be able to try this and then have the Larceny straight after, because it's kind of the same brand from the same company. But unfortunately I haven't got one. If anybody's got any Larceny out there and does have 25ml to spare, it would be very interesting to try it, but it's fine if you haven't. So the Old Fitzgerald is actually becoming a lot harder to find. When it was, and this is only last year before, it was only like $35 a bottle. It was about the same price as W.L. Weller, about $35. So, you know, 12-year-old wheated bourbon, good price. Now, very, very hard to find. I actually put it into winesearcher.com, which is quite handy to find out the prices, and they had one bottle that was priced at $3,400, so I think they were taking the piss a little bit, but it is very, very difficult to find now and becoming increasingly expensive. So James, whatever you've got left in that bottle, and from what I can remember there was a fair bit left, enjoy it, savour it, and if you fancy making some cash, maybe bottle up some little samples and sell them on the secondary market. But I'd enjoy it anyway. So again, wheated bourbon, and the Weller was really distinctive. It was really kind of effervescent and a little bit drier. Now this on the nose has the freshness that the Weller had as well, that kind of mintiness to it. It's a definite kind of fresh garden mint. This is slightly more spearmint as well, but there is that dark fruited flavour, a Christmas cakey feel that is a classic bourbon character, but this is slightly more fresher, and I think that's the element of the wheat that's in the bourbon. And it's not too dissimilar to the Weller. It starts off really smooth, and then again kind of bursts with this sparkling, not dryness, but it is kind of like almost like soda water, sparkles and slightly dries your mouth out. It's a very, very mouth-watering bourbon indeed. It really isn't too dissimilar to the Weller at all. There is a lovely freshness to it, but it's lighter, it's more deft, it's more gentle on its feet than a kind of stereotypical bourbon is. It's got those flavours, but they're more subdued, and this lighter, fresher character comes through. Not too dissimilar to the Weller at all. Very, very similar. And if it was that same price point, if they were still releasing it and it was still around the same price point as Weller, I'd recommend them both equally. They really are very similar styles, both as good as each other. I'd be hard pressed to, without having literally a glass side by side, I'd be hard pressed to say whether one is any better than the other. This seems slightly softer than the Weller did by my recollection. It was 2 days ago, I can barely remember this morning. This feels a little bit softer. But it's still really interesting, it's still kind of different, and it just zings a little bit, and there's a definite kind of soda water, just a kind of dryness, a slight tartiness to it as well. But it makes it really interesting. It just kind of lifts everything, and all those classic flavours, they're not too full on in your face. And it's not that it's easy drinking, it's just lighter on the touch. Having said that, if that's $3,000 a bottle, as this place in California apparently was selling it for, against the $35 for a WL Weller, I know what I'd go for every time. But on an equal price point, on an equal footing, I would say toss a coin. You're going to be happy with it whichever way you go. I'd be fascinated to see how different Larceny is to that, because I think Larceny is about the $25 to $30 route. If it's pretty much the same, which I don't think it is, because remember this is a 12-year-old, and I don't think Larceny has that sort of age. By all means, please prove me wrong in the comments. But if it's not too dissimilar, for $5 to $10 less than the WL Weller, there's an argument to go for that. It's just whether, in fact, I'm pretty certain Larceny is non-age statement, no age at all. So it really does kind of smack of a company essentially going the no age statement route to be able to go, well, it is cheaper, but it's not that much cheaper, and it won't be as good a quality product as this is. It might be, but I'd be hesitant to get hold of it. So yeah, really good, really interesting. Another really interesting wheated bourbon. It's a shame that, from what I gather, from what it looks like, is that Heaven Hill are no longer releasing this, which means the remaining stocks that are out there are becoming increasingly hard to find, and it's just pumping the price up. Good stuff. I'm going to do a quick rinse out, and then we'll crack on with another one. So I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.